Chapter 23. Happiness and Taboo. Kagome was hanging the laundry with her best friend Sango. It's been a month since she met Sesshomaru's mother, and even his sister Isabo. And ever since Rin got sick with the fever, Kagome and Sesshomaru were happy to see Rin feeling better. After they finished the laundry over the river, the two girls hang them on the tree branches. A figure flew through the sky and landed into the grassy field in front of Kagome and Sango. She knew it was Sesshomaru's younger sister, Isabo. "Izzy, you're here! I didn't know you came to visit. How are you?" Kagome exclaimed happily as Sango blinked her brown eyes in confusion. Isabo smiled at Kagome kindly. "I'm doing fine, Kagome. I only wanted to come here to visit you and my brother." "Brother?" Sango blinked in shock. Kagome chuckled. "Well, that's great. By the way, Sesshomaru has left the village because he has business to do," she told the female demon dog. Kagome glanced her eyes at Sango, who stood beside her. "Isabo, this is Sango, the demon slayer. Sango, this is Isabo, Sesshomaru's younger sister." "Nice to meet you, Sango," Isabo greeted the young demon slayer. Sango began to smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Lady Isabo." "You don't have to call me Lady Isabo, Sango. Just Isabo. Whatever you want to call me," Isabo said. "Okay, Isabo," Sango said. She turned over to Kagome. "Kagome, how did you meet this person?" Kagome began to explain how she and Sesshomaru met Isabo during the battle against 4 demons. She also explained to Sango about helping her 2 pups, Kazuki and Suki, with her spiritual powers to purify the jewel shards. Sango was curious by using the spiritual hearings. "I see. Well, you must be a great helper, Kagome," Sango said with a smile. "Thank you, Sango," Kagome said. "Speaking of which, Isabo, would you like to have dinner with us? I know you don't like human food, but I can make you some demon food if you'd like." Isabo nodded. "Of course, Kagome." A few minutes later, Kagome has cooked the ohagi for everyone and some demon food for Isabo. After she was done cooking it, they began to eat the ohagi. Isabo tried the ohagi, but when she took a bite, the ohagi tasted delicious. Isabo knew Kagome was a great cook. Kagome invited Ayame to the dinner and wanted her to try it as well. When Ayame took a bite of the ohagi, she widened her green eyes and was amazed by Kagome's cooking. Kagome introduced Isabo to her friends. She explained to her friends about how she helped Isabo's 2 pups with her spiritual powers, and how she purified the shards. She also told them that Isabo was Sesshomaru's younger sister. Everyone is interested. At that moment, Inuyasha arrived back at Kaede's village. "What the heck is going on here?" Inuyasha questioned in confusion. "Well, Inuyasha, we invited them to the dinner. Although we just finished," Moroku answered with a smirk. "What? How come you guys didn't leave any for me?" Inuyasha shouted at them. "Oh please, Inuyasha, we saved you a meal. We wouldn't steal from you," Kagome said, rolling her icy blue eyes. "Besides, I invited Ayame and Sesshomaru's younger sister to our dinner." Inuyasha widened his golden eyes as he heard what Kagome was saying. "Ayame and Sesshomaru's younger sister? Wait, if this one is Sesshomaru's younger sister, then that means she's my older sister too." Isabo nodded her head. "Of course, Inuyasha, I'm your older sister. It seems like you don't remember me at all. I used to watch over you and your mother from a long time ago." He blinked. "What? Then how come you never saved my mother's life?" Isabo sighed sadly. "I'm sorry, Inuyasha. There's nothing I can do about it. After I left you and your mother in the human world, I found out that Princess Izayoi had died shortly after." Isabo sighed sadly, glancing at the ground. Ayame confronted him and cheered him up. "Don't be sad, Inuyasha. Be happy. Besides, you're with us, and we saved you a meal." He blushed softly as he smiled at her. Inuyasha began to sit beside her as he started to have dinner with Ayame. Kagome was happy to see Inuyasha and Ayame sitting together. "Kagome," Isabo said. "I was wondering, would you like to come over to my castle and watch over the pups? They'd be happy to see you again," Isabo said. "Why do you want me to watch over them?" Kagome asked her curiously. "Because I have business to do. I can't just leave my pups alone in the castle. I thought maybe you can watch over them," Isabo replied. Kagome smiled at her. I will, Izzy. Isabo smiled back. Thank you, Kagome. Suddenly, Kagome felt something strange. She felt ill from eating the ohagi. Isabo looked worried, and so did the others when Kagome felt ill. Kagome, what's wrong? Isabo asked her worryingly. Kagome tried to speak to her, but felt something come out of her body. She covered her mouth, feeling like she was about to vomit. So she ran outside and vomited into the bushes. Everyone was watching her vomiting in private. Kagome! Ayame yelled at her name. Hey, what the hell's wrong with her? Inuyasha asked. Kagome, are you all right? Isabo asked her, coming towards the young priestess. She then rubbed Kagome's back while watching over her. Kagome groaned in a bit of pain. What's happening to me? I don't know, Kagome, but it appears you're probably pregnant, Isabo said. Kagome widened her eyes in shock. What? I'm pregnant? Sango walked towards them and helped Kagome up. Kagome, you need to see Lady Kaede. She'll figure out what's wrong. Okay, Kagome said, nodding. Sango took her to Kaede's hut. Kagome was walking too slow because she was in pain. She was holding onto her lower parts and her stomach. Sango knew Kagome was in horrible pain. She wrapped Kagome's arms around her shoulders and slowly walked towards Kaede's hut. Everyone watched except Inuyasha, who just frowned in confusion. I don't know what the hell is wrong with her. She might be pregnant, Inuyasha said in a frown. I think she is, Inuyasha, but Sesshomaru is not going to be happy when he realizes that Kagome is feeling sick, Moroku said in a worried tone. But Sesshomaru will return when we tell him what's wrong with her. It's been almost 2 hours. Kagome laid on the futon feeling too ill. Kaede had tested her to see what was wrong. Isabo was here for her while comforting her. Although she told Kaede that she was the younger sister of Sesshomaru. Kaede was a bit shocked in hearing this. Kaede sat beside Kagome and asked her, Kagome, how long do you have your period? About 4 weeks. Kagome, when was the last time you and Sesshomaru did it? Kaede asked her again. Maybe 2 months. The news is, Kagome, you're pregnant with Sesshomaru's child, Kaede told her with a kind smile. What? Kagome said in shock. Isabo widened her golden eyes in shock. Oh my, I can't believe this. My brother is having a half-demon baby. Kagome looked afraid when she knew Isabo wouldn't like this. Is it bad? Isabo smiled excitedly. No, of course not, Kagome. Why is that bad? I'm very excited that you and Sesshomaru are going to be parents. She sighed in relief. I'm glad, but what about Sesshomaru? Is he going to be mad if he finds out that I'm pregnant? He won't, I promise, Isabo said, patting her forehead. Kagome? They heard a voice calling out her name. Kagome slowly turned her head around and saw it was Sesshomaru who called out her name. They watched him coming into Kaede's hut. When Sesshomaru came in, Isabo and Kaede left them alone in private. Sesshomaru, Kagome said with a weak smile. Sesshomaru kneeled towards Kagome and looked her into her face. Are you all right? Moroku told me you were feeling ill. Is everything all right? She nodded with a soft smile. Sesshomaru, there's something I want to tell you. I'm pregnant, Kagome answered. Sesshomaru widened his golden eyes in shock. Kagome knew this is going to be happening when Sesshomaru won't accept to be her baby's father because he despises the weakness like some half-demons. She looked away sadly. Sesshomaru, I know you won't accept to be the baby's father. If you don't want to, that's fine. I'll find a way to... When Kagome was interrupted, she was pulled into a hug by Sesshomaru. She felt his strong arms wrap around her waist tightly. Kagome was in shock by his actions. Kagome, that's fantastic news. Of course I'll accept to be the baby's father. I couldn't be happier, Sesshomaru said happily. Kagome blinked. Really? When Sesshomaru finally accepted this, Kagome began to relax and started to embrace him. You're gonna make a wonderful father, Sesshomaru. Thank you for accepting this. Sesshomaru smiled at this, embracing her back. Kagome, I love you and our unborn child. It took me a while to see that, but now that I have that, I don't want to ever lose you again, Kagome. I know I have asked you this before, but Kagome Higurashi, I want to marry you right now. Kagome widened her eyes in shock. What? Are you sure, Sesshomaru? But what about my family from my era? I need to go see them because I don't want them to be upset about our marriage. Sesshomaru smirked. He placed his hand on her left cheek, then pressed his lips against hers. He then let go of a kiss. I know this is sudden, Kagome, but I refuse to spend another day knowing you're not my wife, he said. I want you to be my wife, my mate for life, and the mother of our unborn child. She smiled and embraced Sesshomaru again. All right, I will. I love you, Sesshomaru. Sesshomaru kissed her on the forehead. I love you too, Kagome. Chapter 24. Marrying Through the Sakura Trees. I'll see you later, Sesshomaru. I'll be back whenever I'm ready to get married, Kagome said as she sat on the rim of the Bone Eater's well. Okay, Kagome, please take your time, Sesshomaru said before he quickly placed his lips over Kagome's. The two of them blushed at the same time. I'll be back, Kagome said with a smile, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Have a great time with your family, Kagome, Sesshomaru said, smiling softly as Kagome was too. Kagome then jumped into the well, leaving a blue light in her wake. Sesshomaru was amazed that his human mate travels through time. No one can do that. Then he heard footsteps coming his way. Sesshomaru turned around and saw it was Inuyasha who approached him. Hey, Sesshomaru, Inuyasha said. Yes, Inuyasha, he asked. What is it that you love about Kagome? I thought you despised all humans, he said. Sesshomaru softened his golden eyes. Why do you want to know, little brother? I just want to know, Sesshomaru. Okay, Inuyasha said in a grumpy tone. Sesshomaru took a breath and looked above at the sky. Her kindness towards, whether they are demons, half-demons, or humans. Kagome would always put everyone before herself. She never gives up when the situation looks bad. Kagome and Rin had changed me because I no longer despised humans with their weakness. Inuyasha looked at him in the face. Do you love her? He looked back. Yes, I do love her. Her purity and kindness is what I love about her. Inuyasha sighed at that. It was true about Kagome's kindness. She had a golden heart. She would care about others before herself. Even when Inuyasha kept hurting her feelings, it will be caused by breaking Kagome's heart. He wished he had seen it sooner, but it was too late now. Sesshomaru has her heart. But he had to make sure that his older half-brother wouldn't take advantage of her. Why do you ask, Inuyasha? Sesshomaru asked. Well, I just wanted to make sure Kagome was okay. I don't want you to hurt Kagome, Inuyasha said, turning away from his brother. Sesshomaru smirked at this. Don't worry about her, Inuyasha. I still love her, and I wanted to accept to be the baby's father. Inuyasha sighed again, as he remembered how Kagome became ill, but turned out she became pregnant with Sesshomaru's child. To his point of view, he was furious with Sesshomaru for getting Kagome pregnant. But turned out, he's becoming a half-uncle. He was glad that Kagome was with someone like Sesshomaru who truly loved her. I'm glad, Inuyasha said with a small smile. Guys, I'm home! Kagome called as she entered the house. Somehow, it felt good to be home again. It had been about 2 months since the last time she was home. She wondered how her family was doing. Then, she heard footsteps coming towards the front entrance from where she now stood. Her mother, Harumi Higurashi, approached her with a joyful smile. Kagome, you're back, she explained happily. Running and embracing her daughter, Kagome embraced back tightly. Mom, is Kagome back? It was Sota who questioned Harumi. Hi. Kagome! Sota and Grandpa Higurashi shouted at the same time, joining together in a group hug. It's great to see all you guys, Kagome said as she smiled happily with added tears flowing down her face. It's great to see you again, sis, Sota said happily. Hey, thanks, Sota, Kagome said with a smirk. So how long are you gonna stay here for? Grandpa asked curiously. Well, There's something I want to tell you, Kagome said, glancing around. What is it, dear? Tell us everything, Harumi said with a smile. Kagome began to tell them everything that happened when she returned to the feudal era, meeting Sesshomaru again after driving her away and even trying to kill her. Kikyo used a spell on Inuyasha to take half of Kagome's soul, defeating and killing Kikyo by Inuyasha, spending time with Sesshomaru, meeting Sesshomaru's family, his mother Inukumi, and his younger sister Isabo, along with her two pups, Kazuki and Suki, healing Rin from the sickness, and finding out she's pregnant with Sesshomaru's baby, and planning to get married for tonight. Also, Ayame's broken engagement to Koga. Oh, so you're with Sesshomaru's child? Harumi asked in shock. Kagome nodded in disappointment and sadness. I'm sorry, Mom. I know you're mad at me, but I understand, Kagome. When she was interrupted by Harumi, she felt worried if Harumi won't ever allow marrying Sesshomaru. It would have caused heartbreak, but her mother suddenly smiled at her. Kagome, I understand of wanting to get married by Lord Sesshomaru, and I also understand that you're pregnant with his baby. If you want to marry Sesshomaru right now, we'll support you, dear, Harumi said, smiling. Kagome began to smile back. She was glad Harumi accepted her and Sesshomaru to be together. Harumi embraced her again as Kagome embraced her back. Good luck, Kagome. Be safe. Take care of yourself and your unborn baby. Come back and visit us, Harumi said, hugging her daughter close to her. I will, Mom, Kagome said. Then she released her mother and went to hug her grandfather. I hope you will be a fine wife for Lord Sesshomaru, Grandpa said, hugging her. Thank you, Grandpa, she said as she released her grandfather and hugged her little brother. I'm gonna miss you, sis, Sota said, wrapping his arms around her upper back and her neck. I'm gonna miss you too, Sota, but I'll come back and visit you guys, Kagome said as she released him. She entered the sacred well and climbed the rim and sat there. She looked over her shoulder to gaze at her family. Goodbye, Kagome. Good luck with your wedding, Sota said. I wish you and Sesshomaru eternal happiness, Kagome, Harumi said. Farewell, Kagome, Grandpa said. Thank you. Thank you all. I'll come back and visit you, Kagome said with a close-eyed smile. She then jumped off the rim and into the well where she was surrounded by the blue and white lights. Sesshomaru stood by the Bone Eater's well and waited for Kagome's arrival. He knew she was telling her family about wanting to marry him and having a life with him and their unborn child. Then he smelled Kagome's scent from the well. He looked through the well and reached out his hand towards her. He felt being grabbed in the hand by Kagome, then pulled her out of the well. Kagome, are you ready? Sesshomaru asked her, hoping if she's ready. To his point of view, he noticed Kagome looked a bit sad and nervous about missing her family, although they were supposed to restore the jewel and defeat Naraku. After the wedding, they'll defeat Naraku to take the jewel back and even bring Kohaku back to his sister Sango. Kagome, is everything alright? Oh, it's nothing. But I was happy that my family supported us about our marriage, Kagome said, smiling. In return, Kagome wrapped her arms around Sesshomaru's waist. Even if you want to see your family again, we have to continue finding the jewel shards to defeat Naraku. Never forget that. Okay? Sesshomaru asked. Kagome nodded. Yes, we can't forget about Naraku and the jewel shards. Soon after Kagome's arrival, everyone joined the wedding party where they were at the sakura trees. It was nighttime, and the moon looked beautiful when the petals fell off from the tree branches. Kagome knew the wedding party looked beautiful because of the white wedding. Kagome leaned her head beside Sesshomaru's left shoulder and began to feel relaxed. Suddenly, Moroku approached them with a smirk, crossing his arms across his chest. I hope I'm not interrupting your moment days, he said with a smile. Kagome smiled back. Nah, you're fine, Moroku. Is there something you want to tell me? Ayame, Isabo, and Sango brought you a wedding dress. This dress was made by Isabo. I gotta admit, she must be pretty good at knitting some clothes, Moroku said. Okay, thank you, Moroku, Kagome said happily. After this, she kissed Sesshomaru on his lips, then went to the hut where her friends were waiting for her. Sesshomaru went to go see his brother Inuyasha and Moroku. Within a few minutes, Kagome was wearing her new kimono wedding dress. She thanked Isabo for making the dress, and Sango and Ayame exclaimed that they both loved it. They both talked for a while until Kaede entered the hut and interrupted their girls' night. "Kagome, it's time," Kaede said with a smile. Kagome nodded in response. She walked towards the elder priestess, then wrapped her arms around Kaede's left arm. "I will help you get ready for your wedding if you need anything from me," Kaede said. "Thank you, Lady Kaede," Kagome said with a kind smile. Until then, 1 hour later, everyone gathered around at the wedding. Inukimi was here while standing around and watching them getting married over the sakura trees. Although Inuyasha never really met his stepmother, he only frowned at her. Inukimi was just smirking as she noticed Inuyasha didn't like her at all. Ayame sat beside Inuyasha and held onto his hand gently that made him blush heavily. Isabo and her children stood beside Inukimi as a family group. Moroku and Sango sat with each other as couples. Rin and Shippo sat on the tree branches while watching Kagome walking towards Sesshomaru, who stood beside the priest. Within a few minutes, they got married after being announced as husband and wife. They both kissed each other on the lips to make everyone clap their hands. Kagome was now Sesshomaru's human wife, and she loved him very much. She loved him for who he is, and she loved the fact that she is his mate and wife. Kagome was brought out of her reminiscence by Sesshomaru's gentle kiss on her soft hand and his lingering questions. Kagome said that she was happy to be with Sesshomaru.